Good afternoon. This is World at Noon. My name is Timile Faladi. The world marked 2023 World Press Freedom Day yesterday all over the globe. However, concerned citizens have called for fair treatment of pressmen while discharging their duties. Omoriola Humbeji x-rays the various humiliations and harassments meted to media practitioners in the discharge of their duties and the expectations from the incoming administration are restoring dignity to the pen profession.
These are few of the ugly scenes journalists encounter in the discharge of their duties, from verbal assault to battery, humiliation, and other demeaning treatments. Media practitioners who are trained to inform, educate, and set agenda for government and society are constantly exposed to these physical and emotional tortures without justice.
Somebody has been on the road for how long? You are coming to talk about that? Very stupid.
This year's World Press Freedom Day, with a theme, Shaping a Future of Rights, freedom of expression as a driver for all other human rights, is celebrated globally to highlight the difficulties journalists face in the line of duty. A renowned journalist, Lai Gidado, while reacting to how media practitioners are being subjected to in society, said it was time that professionals were allowed to do their job according to their oaths.
You hear today a journalist is brutalized, a media man is attacked, media camera broken. We are not free. The government across the continent, they are merely deceiving us. There is nothing like press freedom, but we actually need press freedom. Without press freedom, there won't even be human rights. In a situation whereby someone who is actually supposed to fight for you, he too is not actually free. So, where is the human right? There won't be any human right since the press is not free. Then the society will not even move forward without a free press.
Chairman, Nigeria Union of Journalists, Ondo State Chapter, Leke Adegbite frowned at the danger media practitioners are exposed to and sought total freedom of agencies controlling the profession to allow effective delivery of their duties.
We still have challenges in the areas of regulatory bodies. The regulatory bodies such as Nigeria Press Council, National Broadcasting Commission, and so on, we believe that there is need for government to make them independent. We want them to be independent of the Minister of Information, whoever that is minister. We want them to be independent of the President. So there is need to kind of amend the law setting of these regulatory bodies so that the professionals will be able to be in charge.
A legal practitioner, Tope Timokun, suggested constant agitations for freedom of speech, not just the pressmen, but every citizen.
There's something like press freedom. What I have at every situation under every regime is concession. When people rise up to make demands, they get concessions. If people don't agitate for right to freedom of expression, even under the most democratic regime, they will still be denied press freedom.
Meanwhile, media professionals are expected to always respect the ethics and the law that guide the profession to gain the required respect in society. Omoriola Humbeji, Osrc News.
3 suspected members of a syndicate that specialize in tampering and stealing prepaid meters and selling same to unsuspecting members of the public have been arrested by the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC) following a sustained intelligence and the flagging of some reported stolen prepaid meters by the Corps. One of the flagged stolen meters was recovered at the point of recharging by the buyer. According to NSCDC Public Relations Officer on the State Command, Daniel Aida Membo, the buyer's statement led to the arrest of the suspects at Oda Road in Akure. Mr. Aida Membo said 2 members of the syndicate are presently at large and effort is on to apprehend them. He added that the suspects will be charged to court after the completion of investigation. The Inspector General of Police, Ismail Kalibaba, has directed police officers and the families to vacate 25 barracks in Lagos for renovation. According to the directive, officers living in the affected barracks are to be issued a 1-month notice to vacate their accommodation spaces following plans by the Nigeria Police Force (NPF) to reconstruct 25 police barracks and other facilities to improve officers' welfare in Lagos. Spokesperson for the force, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, said the initiative was in compliance with Lagos State Government's recommendations of a poor condition of some police barracks that failed structural integrity tests. He stressed that the renovations would provide the much-needed modern amenities and enhance the condition of living and dignity of police officers. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) has prayed the Federal High Court in Abuja to dismiss a suit by Minister of State for Labour, Festus Keyamo, seeking the probe and prosecution of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. The ministry had served an order compelling the EFCC, ICPC, and the Code of Conduct Bureau to probe and prosecute Atiku following claims by one of his ex-aides, Michael Achimugu, that between 1999 and 2007, when he was vice president, he conspired with ex-president Olusegun Obasanjo to rip off the country using what he termed special purpose vehicles. Having resumed hearing, lawyers to the EFCC and ICPC in 2 separate preliminary objections faulted the competence of the suit and prayed the court to dismiss it. Keyamo's lawyer, however, urged the court to dismiss the objections raised by the defendants and proceeded to hear the case on the merits. Justice James Omotosho, after entertaining the arguments by lawyers to the parties, adjourned until June 5 for ruling in the preliminary objections. Primary schools in Ondo State have expressed readiness to sustain the solid foundation for the education system in the state. Head teachers who spoke with Osrc on the turnout for the 2022-2023 third term academic session maintained that adequate measures have been adopted to achieve the desired goals. Omoriola Ngbeji has details.
Very early on Tuesday, 2nd of May, academic session resumed for third term 2022-2023 after 3 weeks of break to usher in the third term. It was an impressive turnout on the first day of resumption. Students are expected to go through the principal test established by the school authorities to refresh and assess the students. The first port of call was Oyemekun Grammar School, Akure, where the school principal Ogunleye Okewu addressed the students on their expectations for the third term. According to him, over 3,700 students turned up on the first day.
I've just told them third term is the summary of the whole section and it's a examinations term. I've just told them this morning that Oyemekun without English and Maths, no promotion. Even if you have 9 credits, if English and Maths is not there, no promotion. And in SSY you must have your core subjects. If you're in science class, you must have biology, chemistry, physics, maths, and English.
Mrs. Omobolande Anyitete of St. Louis Grammar School, Akure, said the school is prepared to break more records. According to her, 3 of their students who had traveled to the United States of America to represent the country in an academic competition are back in school.
On Thursdays, we usually meet, the teachers and the management. That is where we start from. We prepare. If you move around now, the lesson notes of the teachers, everything, they are ready. And it was on that Thursday that they submitted their questions for principals and tests. And the students on their own side, they have printed their results. They have collected their results. So some of them, they already are aware of where they belong. So definitely most of them, we move around, you see most of them in the classes. They have started the principal's test already.
At the United CAC Grammar School, OSRC's camera lens caught the school principal, Mrs. Grace Adewumi, meeting with the school teachers on the best way to improve on the school's record.
The season we are now is rainy season, so by the time we got to the school this morning, the whole thing was bushy, but by the grace of God and with the efforts of God and the students, we have been able to cut down some gases. We're getting ready. Some class teachers have gone to their various classes to see to the classes so that the sitting arrangements will be properly done, the classes will be neat. By tomorrow, we will start the principal's test and all other things will follow.
Principal of Aquinas College, Adebisi Jimbola, on his own part informed that proper arrangements have been made to ensure smooth running of the term, as classes were already treated for convenience of the students.
We've sprayed all the grasses with herbicides. Aside that, on Thursday last week, we had our statutory meeting where almost all the teachers were present, and we rolled out what we are going to do this time. Of course, they know, they are experienced teachers, but we still have to tell them that these are the things that are expected of them.
All the school heads promised accelerated progress and improved performance of both staff and students in the 2022-2023 academic session in line with government's goals. Omoniola Mbiji, Osrc News.
Worried by the area courts being manned by unqualified judges, Nasarawa State House of Assembly has given judges without a degree 10 years window to obtain the prerequisite qualification or be booted out. The House gave the recommendation following the proposed amendments of the bill to implement the principal law passed in 2022. According to the Speaker of the House, Ibrahim Abdullahi, the 10-year window granted to judges of area courts without degree in law is to enable the affected judges obtain the qualification for effective judicial service delivery in Nasarawa State. It explained further that for one to be a judge of any area court, he must be a legal practitioner with at least 3 years post-call. The Federal Executive Council FEC has approved a national blockchain policy. Minister of Communications and Digital Economy Issa Pantami made the disclosure while briefing newsmen after the council's meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. A blockchain is a digital ever-growing list of data records comprising many blocks of data which are organized in chronological order and are linked and secured by cryptographic proofs. Pantami noted that the Security Council has directed regulatory bodies to liaise with the National Information Technology Development Agency to come up with regulatory instruments in all sectors. The Senate has approved the 22.7 trillion naira advances taken from the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) by the federal government. Request for the loan was sent to the Senate last year by President Muhammadu Buhari. The loan was given by CBN to the federal government to enable it cater for short-term or emergency finance to fund delayed government expected cash receipt or deficit. The upper legislative chamber also approved a sum of 180 billion naira, being the balance of the supplementary budget and interest accrued on the loan. Senate urged the federal government to expedite action on the repayment of the loans through treasury bills and bond issuance. President Muhammadu Buhari will leave for London today to join other world leaders attending the coronation of British monarchs King Charles III and his wife Camilla. Ahead of the coronation, the Commonwealth Secretariat will take advantage of the gathering of leaders in London to host a summit for presidents and heads of government of Commonwealth countries on Friday. President Buhari is billed to participate in the summit, which will deliberate on the future of the Commonwealth and the role of the youth. The president has been accompanied by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, and other senior government officials. The federal government says its efforts at overcoming the challenges Nigerians encounter in obtaining international passports are yielding desired results, warning applicants against resorting to underhand dealings in trying to secure the documents. Minister of Interior Rauf Aregbesola made a disclosure at the commissioning of the Passport Front Desk office in Oyo State. Aregbesola urged Nigerians to assist the reform processes at the Nigeria Immigration Service (NIS) by not patronizing corrupt officials who are making the process difficult for them. He said NIS has continued to meet up despite the skyrocketing demand for the citizenship affirming document while maintaining the highest standard and quality. On his part, Governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, who was represented at the event by Special Advisor on Migration and Homeland Security, Segun Adegoke, said the state government will continue to support the Nigeria Immigration Service. Now, the first batch of Nigerians fleeing Sudan through Egypt have arrived at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, after nearly 2 weeks of assurances by the federal government. The Air Peace flight carrying over 270 Nigerian students from Aswan Airport in Egypt first landed at the airport, with the Nigerian Air Force jet conveying about 80 persons following closely behind. Since April 15, Sudan has been plunged into armed conflict, with clashes between rival factions of the nation's military government breaking out in western Sudan, in the capital city of Khartoum, and in Darfur. The death of a well-known actress killed in crossfire in the north of Khartoum is shocking residents of Sudan's capital, as they hear more and more friends and relatives caught up in the fighting. Aisha Abdelmajid, who turned 80 last year, was famous for her theatrical performances, first coming to prominence in the 1965 production of the play Pamsika. Her family say she was buried within hours of a shooting yesterday in the grounds of a kindergarten where she was being most recently working. It is not clear who fired the shot that killed her in the clashes in the northern suburb of Bari, but paramilitary fighters of the Rapid Support Forces, who are ensconced in the bases in residential areas across the city, continue to battle the army, which tends to attack from the air. The Israeli army has killed at least 3 Palestinians and injured 4 others while firing live ammunition during a raid in the northern city of Nablus. The Palestinian Ministry of Health confirmed the killing of the 3 people by Israeli forces. Israeli army and the intelligence service said 2 of the men killed were behind a shooting on April 7 north of Jericho, in which 2 settler sisters died when gunmen opened fire on the vehicle. Political factions in Nablus have announced a general strike in the city in response to the attack. Police have searched the home of former President Jair Bolsonaro in the Brazilian capital, Brasilia, as part of an investigation into his COVID vaccination records. Police suspect the ex-leader's vaccination record was forged so he could gain entry into the U.S. Officers seized the mobile phone of the former president and that of his wife and arrested some of his close aides as part of the operation. Akintunde Akinshemola has the detail.
Brazilian police have raided the home of former President Jair Bolsonaro and seized his phone as part of an investigation into his COVID-19 vaccination record. The investigation may answer questions about how Bolsonaro, a staunch coronavirus skeptic who vowed never to get a COVID-19 vaccine, was registered as vaccinated in health records made public in February. Bolsonaro confirmed the raid on his home to journalists and reiterated that he has never taken any COVID vaccine. He also denied he had any role in allegedly forging documents.
My mobile phone has been seized. My phone has no password. I will make that very clear. I have nothing to hide. Not only about the vaccination card, I have nothing to hide about anything. It would be good if we had a democratic country where we could discuss all subjects. There are subjects that are forbidden to talk about in Brazil, and one of them is about the vaccine.
Federal police in a statement said they were serving 16 search warrants and 6 arrest warrants in Brasilia and Rio de Janeiro as part of the operation, but did not disclose the names of those targeted. Police said they were investigating false data allegedly added to the national COVID-19 database between November 2021 and December 2022 when Bolsonaro was president. As a result, they were able to issue vaccine certificates and use them to solve restrictions imposed by public authorities in Brazil and in the United States. A vaccine probe is one of many putting the former far-right leader under pressure, including investigations into alleged voter suppressions, attacks on the legitimacy of the Brazilian election, and embezzlement of funds. Bolsonaro has denied wrongdoing in those cases. Akintunde Akishimola for Osrc News.
Myanmar's junta has pardoned more than 2,000 political prisoners to mark a Buddhist holiday, with families rushing into prisons for tearful reunions with loved ones, jailed in a sweeping crackdown on dissent. The military had arrested thousands of protesters and activists since the February 2021 putsch that ended Myanmar's brief democratic experiment and plunged the country into turmoil. The announcement comes as Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang Yi is in the country for talks with the internationally isolated generals. More than 21,000 people have been arrested since the military ousted Aung San Suu Kyi's government. And now to sports. Erling Haaland has broken the English Premier League record for goals in a season as Manchester City returned to the top of the table by beating West Ham. Haaland's strike 20 minutes from time took him on to 35, one clear of Andy Cole and Alan Shearer, whose 34-goal tallies had come in a 42-match campaign. The Norwegian is now on 51 in all competitions, 12 behind Dick Sedin's all-time English record, with a potential 9 games still to play. Haaland's latest effort helped City to a 9th successful league win, and they now lead Arsenal by a point and have a game in hand. And that's World Afternoon. Thank you so much for watching. Good afternoon.